Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cowboys and Cattle. In our last episode, Ty and Amy made the announcement that shattered their family's fragile peace. They were going to Alaska. Lou exploded. It was too dangerous. Ty was barely healing. Going back could destroy him completely. Jack begged Ty to know his limits. But Ty was resolute. Someone was waiting for him. Someone he'd promised to rescue. Amy stood firm. If Ty went, she went. Lou and Jack reluctantly accepted they couldn't stop them. But Lou raised the critical question, what about Lindy? She couldn't go to Alaska. Lou and Lisa offered to care for her. But the real problem was Lindy herself. She'd been listening from the stairs, hearing everything, and ran to the barn, devastated. Ty found her crying in Harley's stall, terrified of losing her father again just 2 weeks after getting him back. Through tears, Lindy tried to understand why her daddy had to keep promises to people he couldn't even remember. Tyr explained about helping suffering animals and keeping his word. Lindy made him promise to come back. He promised. 4 days. Then they'd make chocolate chip cookies together, outside the barn with hands shaking and hearts breaking. Amy and Ty called Morrison. We're ready. We're coming to Alaska. If this impossible journey has gripped you, please hit that like button and subscribe. But today's episode doesn't begin at an airport or on a plane. It begins in Lindy's bedroom at 4:47 a.m., where a 9-year-old girl with lies awake staring at the ceiling, counting the hours until her parents leave. She's been awake since 3 a.m., too anxious to sleep, too young to fully understand why fear sits like a stone in her chest. Downstairs, Ty sits at the kitchen table with packed bags by the door, also unable to sleep, also counting hours. Amy finds him there as dawn breaks, neither speaking, both knowing that in 3 hours they'll board a plane that takes them toward the place that destroyed Ty once already. Sometimes the hardest part of a journey isn't the destination, it's the moment you step away from everything safe to walk toward everything that terrifies you. This is episode 85, and today Ty Borden returns to hell. The departure and the flight. The Calgary airport was still waking up when Morrison met Ty and Amy at the private aviation terminal. This wasn't a commercial flight. The FBI had arranged charter transportation to keep the mission discreet and allow for maximum flexibility. Morrison's expression showed both professional determination and personal concern as he greeted them. Ty, Amy, thank you for coming. I know this wasn't an easy decision.
Let's just get it over with. The longer I think about it, the more likely I am to change my mind.
His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly as he gripped his bag. Amy stayed close, her presence a constant anchor. Our medical team is already on board, Dr. Rachel Foster. She specializes in trauma psychology. She's worked with returned hostages and kidnapping victims. If you need support during this process, she's there.
Will she be at the facility with us?
The entire time, we have a full support team, medical, mental health, veterinary specialists for the animals. Nobody expects you to handle this alone. They boarded the plane, a mid-sized jet configured for law enforcement transport. The interior was functional rather than luxurious, with seats arranged to allow easy communication. Already on board were several FBI agents, a woman in her 40s who must be Dr. Foster, and 2 people in veterinary gear comparing notes on tablets. Dr. Foster approached immediately, her expression warm and professional. Dr. Foster, Mr. Borden, I'm Rachel Foster. Dr. Chen briefed me on your recent progress in therapy. I want you to know I'm not here to interfere with your healing process. I'm here to support you. If being at the facility becomes overwhelming.
What's the plan if I completely fall apart?
His bluntness seemed to catch her off guard, but she recovered quickly. Dr. Foster, then we stabilize you, get you somewhere safe, and if necessary, remove you from the facility immediately. But Ty, you've made remarkable progress in just a few days. You have grounding techniques now. Tools that work. I'm betting you're stronger than you think.
I hope you're right.
As the plane taxied for takeoff, Ty found a window seat with Amy beside him. Morrison sat across the aisle, giving them space but remaining close enough to observe. Ty's breathing had already become shallow and rapid, his body responding to stress before his mind consciously registered it.
Use your techniques, the breathing. Remember what Dr. Chen taught you.
I'm trying. It's not working as well as it did in the den at Heartland.
That's because you're actually scared now, instead of just practicing. But the techniques still work. You just have to push through the initial panic.
She took his hand, her voice dropping to something more intimate.
In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6, with me. Come on.
They breathed together, Amy counting softly, Ty following despite the tremor in his chest. Morrison watched from across the aisle, his expression showing both admiration and concern. After several minutes, Ty's breathing began to stabilize.
Okay, I'm okay. For now.
The flight to Alaska would take approximately 4 hours. Ty spent the first hour practicing his grounding techniques, obsessively naming objects he could see, textures he could touch, sounds he could hear. Dr. Foster approached after a while, settling into the seat across from him. Dr. Foster, tell me what you're most afraid of. Not in a therapeutic sense. Just honestly, what scares you most about going back? Ty considered the question, appreciating her directness.
That I'll get there and completely lose myself. That the memories will be so overwhelming. I'll just break. Stop being able to function. And Amy will have to watch it happen.
Dr. Foster, that's a valid fear. But here's what I want you to consider. You've already accessed traumatic memories in Dr. Chen's office. You've had flashbacks and managed them. You've processed the first moment of your captivity without being destroyed. You're not the same person you were when you first came home 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks. Has it really only been 2 weeks?
Dr. Foster, feels longer, doesn't it? Trauma distorts time. Makes days feel like months.
What if being in the actual facility is different? What if seeing it in person is worse than remembering it?
Dr. Foster, then we deal with it. Together. You're not doing this alone, Ty. You have Amy. You have me. You have Morrison and his entire team. We're all here to make sure you get through this safely. Morrison leaned across the aisle, joining the conversation. Ty, I want to be clear about something. The moment you say you need to leave, we leave, no questions asked. The animals are important, and if there's someone hidden in that facility, they're critical. But your well-being comes first.
I appreciate that, but I didn't come all this way to turn around the second things. Get hard. I'm going to see this through.
I'm counting on your determination, but I'm also counting on your judgment. Know when to push through and when to step back. As the flight continued, Ty alternated between obsessive practice of his techniques and staring out the window at the landscape below. They crossed from Alberta into Alaska, the terrain becoming more rugged, more isolated. When the pilot announced their descent into Anchorage, Ty's panic spiked immediately.
Breathe. Just breathe. You can do this.
But Ty's breathing was becoming chaotic, his chest heaving, his hands gripping the armrests so hard his knuckles were white. Foster moved closer, her voice calm and authoritative. Dr. Foster, Ty, look at me. Eyes on me. Good. Now name 5 things you can see on this plane.
The window, your face. Morrison, the seats. That emergency exit sign.
Dr. Foster. 4 things you can touch.
The armrest. Amy's hand. My jeans. The seatbelt.
Dr. Foster, 3 things you can hear.
The engine. Your voice. Someone typing on a tablet.
The grounding exercise was working, pulling Ty back from the edge of full panic. By the time they landed in Anchorage, he was shaking but functional. But the hardest part was still ahead. From Anchorage, they transferred to a helicopter. The facility was too remote for conventional ground transport. As the helicopter lifted off, Ty stared out at the Alaskan wilderness below. Endless forests, mountains, isolation. This was where Nathan had hidden his operation, where people could scream and no one would hear. Morrison handed out communication devices, earpieces that would keep everyone connected. The facility is approximately 40 minutes by helicopter. Once we land, we do a quick security sweep to confirm it's safe. Then we'll bring you in, Ty. Take it at your own pace. If you need breaks, take them.
What about the animals? How bad is it?
Bad. Our initial assessment showed approximately 30 horses in various states of distress. Some are mobile, some aren't. The veterinary team will assess which can be safely transported.
And if they can't be transported?
Morrison's expression became grim. Then we make difficult decisions. Humane euthanasia for animals suffering without hope of recovery. But we're hoping Ty can help us determine which animals have a chance. The weight of that responsibility settled over Ty. He wasn't just here to find a person and identify hidden corridors. He was here to make life and death decisions about animals he'd been forced to help create. As the helicopter flew over increasingly remote terrain, Ty's breathing became labored again. Amy held his hand, both of them staring out the window, both terrified of what came next. Then Morrison's voice came through the comms. There. Ahead. That's the facility. Ty looked forward, and his entire world collapsed. The arrival and the collapse. The facility emerged from the wilderness like something from Ty's nightmares made physical. A sprawling compound of interconnected buildings, industrial and cold, designed to be invisible from most angles but unmistakable once you knew where to look. Chain-link fencing surrounded the property. Guard towers stood empty now but had clearly been manned when the operation was active. The architecture was brutal concrete and metal, built for function rather than comfort. And Ty recognized every inch of it. His breathing stopped entirely. His vision tunneled. His body went rigid in the helicopter seat. You're never going back to Heartland. You understand that, right? Ty Borden is dead. Nathan's voice in his memory delivered in the facility below. The voice that had haunted him for 5 years. Your wife thinks you're dead. Your daughter will never remember you. The torture room. The concrete floor. The chains. You're going to help us, Ty, willingly or not. The animals. The suffering. The forced complicity. Everything slammed into Ty at once. 5 years of trauma, condensed into a single moment of recognition. His body shut down. His consciousness fractured.
Ty. Ty.
Amy's voice was distant, filtered through the roaring in Ty's ears. He couldn't respond, couldn't move. His body had betrayed him, shutting down to protect itself from overwhelming input. The helicopter landed. Hands immediately grabbed Thai medical personnel, pulling him from his seat, laying him on the ground outside the helicopter. Dr. Foster's face appeared above him, her mouth moving, words coming through the communications device. Dr. Foster, Ty, you're having a panic attack. Your body is safe. You're in Alaska, not captive. You're with Amy. Can you hear me? Ty couldn't respond. His chest felt compressed, unable to draw breath. His vision was graying at the edges.
Ty, please, look at me. Just look at me.
Amy's face swam into view, replacing Dr. Foster. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but her voice remained steady.
5 things you can see. Come on. Name them. The helicopter. My face. What else?
Can't breathe?
Yes, you can. Your body just thinks you can't. In for 4, with me. Come on.
She demonstrated, her breath visible in the cold Alaskan air. Ty tried to follow, but his lungs wouldn't cooperate. Dr. Foster appeared with an oxygen mask, placing it over Ty's face, forcing his body to get the air it needed, whether he could breathe properly or not. Dr. Foster, the oxygen will help. Just focus on Amy. Focus on her voice. Minutes passed. Could have been 5, could have been 20. T had no sense of time. But gradually, incrementally, his body began to respond. The oxygen helped. Amy's presence helped. The grounding techniques, repeated over and over, helped. Finally, Ty's vision cleared. His breathing, while still ragged, became more controlled. He was lying on cold ground outside a helicopter, surrounded by FBI agents and medical personnel, all watching him with varying expressions of concern.
I'm okay. I'm okay now.
His voice was hoarse, but functional. Doctor. Foster checked his vitals, while Morrison approached cautiously. We can turn around right now. Get you out of here. Nobody would blame you. Ty looked past Morrison to the facility, the building that had housed his nightmares. The place where 5 years had been stolen from him. Every instinct screamed at him to get back in the helicopter and leave. But somewhere in that building, if his memory was correct, someone was waiting for him, someone who trusted his promise. And outside, animals were suffering because of programs he'd been forced to help with.
No, I came here to do a job. Let's do it.
Tay, you just had a complete breakdown.
I know, but I used the techniques. They worked, eventually. I'm functional now.
He sat up slowly, Dr. Foster supporting him. His legs were shaky but held his weight when he stood. He removed the oxygen mask, his breathing still elevated but manageable.
I can do this. I need to do this.
Morrison studied him carefully, weighing the risks. Okay, but doctor, Foster stays with you every step. The moment you show signs of another panic attack, we're pulling you out.
Agreed.
They approached the facility's entrance slowly, the entire team moving with Ty at the center like he was made of glass. Maybe one more shock would shatter him completely. The main door stood open. FBI teams had already secured the building during initial sweeps, but standing at that threshold, knowing what lay beyond, Ty froze again. His hand reached out, gripping Amy's with desperate strength.
Together. We go in together.
Together.
They stepped across the threshold, and Ty's world exploded with sensory memory. The facility, the smell hit first. Concrete and chemicals and something else, fear. The scent memory of suffering that no amount of abandonment could erase. Heidi's stomach lurched violently and he bent over, dry heaving, his body rejecting the sensory input.
Breathe through it. Just breathe.
But breathing meant smelling, and smelling meant remembering. Ty forced himself upright, using every technique Dr. Chen had taught him to stay grounded in present reality. The corridor stretched ahead, fluorescent lights humming overhead, some flickering, some dead. The floor was concrete, exactly as Ty's nightmares had shown. The walls were painted industrial beige, institutional and cold. Everything was exactly as he remembered, and somehow worse. Ty, which way? Where were the breeding operations? Ty pointed down the main corridor without conscious thought, his body remembering even when his mind struggled.
That way. Through the double doors at the end. That's where the main facility was.
They moved as a group, Ty leading despite his trembling legs. Each step triggered more memories walking. This corridor with guards behind him. Being dragged this corridor after escape attempts. Nathan's voice echoing off these walls. The double doors opened into a massive space barn-like but industrial. Rows of stalls lined both sides. And in those stalls, the animals. Ty stopped, his breath catching for entirely different reasons. The horses were worse than his fragmented memories had suggested. Much worse. In the first stall, a horse with legs grotesquely elongated. The bones didn't align properly, causing the animal obvious pain with every shift of weight. Its breathing was labored, respiratory system malformed. The horse looked at them with eyes that held suffering and something worse, awareness that something was deeply wrong.
Oh my God.
Amy's voice was strangled with horror. As a professional horse trainer and therapist, she'd seen injuries and illnesses. But this was different. This was deliberate genetic manipulation that had created suffering. The veterinary specialists moved immediately to begin assessments, but Ty stood frozen, staring at the animals he'd been forced to help create, his vision blurred with tears.
I did this. I helped Nathan do this to them.
Dr. Foster, you were forced, under threat to your family.
Doesn't change that I did it. Look at them. Look at what my expertise created.
Ty, we need you to help assess which animals can be safely moved. We have transports standing by, but we need to know who can travel and who can't. Ty forced himself to move, approaching the first stall. His veterinary training overrode his emotional response, his mind cataloging the issues, even as his heart broke. He moved from stall to stall, the veterinary specialists following, taking notes as Ty identified mutations, complications, prognoses.
How many can we move?
Most of them. The mutations are awful, but not immediately life-threatening. With proper care and treatment, maybe 27 of these horses could have decent lives, not normal lives. The damage is permanent, but decent ones.
He moved further down the line, his assessment continuing. The veterinary team began coordinating transport for the animals, Ty cleared for movement. Within an hour, horses were being carefully led or carried out to waiting trailers, each one receiving immediate medical attention. But at the far end of the facility, in specialized stalls separated from the others, Ty stopped. His face went pale.
These three. These are the ones I remember most clearly. The worst of Nathan's experiments.
What's wrong with them?
Ty approached the first stall slowly. Inside, a horse stood with grotesque mutations that made Amy gasp audibly. The animal's respiratory system was so malformed that each breath was clearly agony. Its legs were structurally unsound, the horse could barely stand. Its eyes showed awareness, showed suffering, showed desperation.
Nathan wanted horses with maximum lung capacity, wanted breathing efficiency beyond normal. So he manipulated the respiratory genetics. But it went wrong. The lungs are too large for the chest cavity. Every breath causes internal pressure that's excruciating.
He moved to the second stall. This horse was smaller, its body proportions wrong in ways that suggested neurological issues alongside physical ones.
This one was about speed. Nathan wanted muscle-to-bone ratios that would create the fastest horse possible. But the neurological system couldn't handle the modifications. The brain sends signals the body can't process. Every movement causes confusion and pain.
The third stall held a horse that looked almost normal at first glance. But when it moved, the issues became apparent. Its gait was completely wrong, each step clearly painful.
And this one was about endurance. Bone density modifications that made the skeleton incredibly strong but also incredibly heavy. The joints weren't designed for that weight. Every movement is like carrying a crushing burden.
Amy stared at the three horses, tears streaming down her face.
Can they be moved? Can we get them out of here and treat them somewhere with better facilities?
Tidy turned to the veterinary specialists, his expression already showing the answer before he spoke.
Can these three survive transport? Honestly?
The lead veterinarian, a woman named Dr. Sarah Mitchell, examined each horse carefully, her expression becoming increasingly grim. After thorough assessment, she returned to where Ty, Amy, and Morrison waited. Dr. Mitchell, the respiratory case won't survive an hour outside this controlled environment. The altitude change alone would kill him. The neurological case might survive transport, but would be in such extreme distress that it would be inhumane to attempt it. And the skeletal case, the stress of loading and transport, would likely cause catastrophic joint failure. She met Ty's eyes with professional sympathy. Dr. Mitchell, these three can't be moved, not without killing them in the process.
Then what do? We can't just leave them here. There's no power, no climate control, no food supply.
I know what we have to do. I just don't know if I can be the one to do it.
The implication hung in the air. These 3 horses, suffering from mutations Ty had been forced to help create, couldn't be saved, couldn't be moved, could only be released from suffering through humane euthanasia. But these animals existed because Nathan had forced Ty's expertise into creating them. Ty had examined them as foals, had monitored their development, had tried desperately to minimize their suffering even as Nathan demanded he continue the breeding programs. And now he was being asked to make the decision to end their lives. Ty, you don't have to make this call, Doctor. Mitchell and her team can handle it. You've done enough. But Ty moved closer to the first stall, the horse with respiratory issues. The animal looked at him with recognition. They'd known each other for years. Ty had cared for this horse since birth, had tried to make its life bearable even when every breath was agony.
I made a promise to these animals when Nathan forced me to work with them. I promised I'd minimize their suffering. I promised I'd do whatever I could to help them. And now keeping that promise means letting them go.
His voice broke on the last words. Amy moved to his side, her hand finding his.
T, you don't have to be the one.
Yes, I do. I owe them that much.
He turned to Dr. Mitchell, his face showing devastation and determination in equal measure.
Do it humanely. Make sure they don't suffer any more than they already have. And I need to be here. I need to be with them when it happens.
Dr. Mitchell, of course, will prepare immediately. As the veterinary team prepared the necessary medications, Ty stood before the 3 stalls, looking at animals who'd never asked to be created, who'd suffered their entire lives because of human arrogance and greed. Amy stood beside him, both of them crying, both knowing this was the only mercy left to offer. Tay, are you sure about this? Watching them, it's going to be hard.
I'm sure. They've suffered long enough. It's time to let them go.
Dr. Mitchell approached with her team, medication prepared, her expression showing both professional competence and genuine compassion for the animals she was about to help. The 3 horses stood in their stalls, unaware that their suffering was finally about to end, and Ty stood before them about to watch the final consequences of 5 years of forced complicity, about to grant the mercy he couldn't give while captive. Amy gasped at the scene before them. 3 animals too damaged to save, their only remaining option humane death. The weight of impossible choices pressed down on everyone present. What do you do when saving something means letting it go? That concludes today's episode. The flight to Alaska was filled with Ty's mounting panic as they approached the place of his nightmares. Dr. Foster and Amy worked together to keep him grounded. But when the helicopter descended and Ty saw the facility through the window, he collapsed completely. Panic attack, hyperventilation, total system shutdown. 20 minutes of medical intervention and grounding techniques brought him back. Despite Morrison offering to turn around, Ty insisted on continuing. Walking through that entrance triggered overwhelming sensory memories, the smell, the sounds, the very air held trauma. Inside the main breeding facility, Ty found the horses, 30 animals suffering from genetic mutations he'd been forced to help create. His veterinary assessment determined 27 could be safely transported with proper care, but 3, the worst of Nathan's experiments, were too damaged. Moving them would kill them. The lead veterinarian confirmed these 3 horses couldn't leave the facility alive. They could only be released from suffering through euthanasia. Ty, crying but resolute, insisted on being present. These animals existed because Nathan forced his expertise. The least he could do was grant them mercy at the end. Amy gasped at the impossible scene, 3 horses too broken to save, suffering that could only end one way. The weight of forced complicity, the cost of 5 years of captivity, the final devastating consequences all converged in this moment. Join us next time as Ty faces the hardest part of his Alaska journey and the search for the hidden corridor begins. If this episode devastated you with impossible choices, please like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cowboys and Cattle.